Hey, what's up guys, it's Sher Nick and I am Recovery Road Trash, and I am so happy that it has finally premiered and it was as good as I hoped it would be. But basically, this show is about a girl named Maddie who has a crazy wild night partying. And then she wakes up the next day and she goes to school and she's talking to her best friend. Neither of them know where she left her car. She doesn't remember what she did the night before. And she has this water bottle in her hand and she puts it in her locker, and then the scene changes. Turns out the school went through her locker and found out that the water bottle was full of vodka. When her guidance counselor asked her to breathe on one of those little breathalyzers, it turns out that she does have alcohol in her system, that it was her alcohol, and she's about to get expelled from school. But instead of expelling her, they decide to tell her that she has to go through a 24-hour detox and 90 days in a sobriety house, which means that she's going to have to be without drugs and alcohol for 90 days. She believes that she doesn't have a problem. She's just a wild teenager doing what wild teenagers do. And Maddie is this very, smart, cynical mastermind. She is really retro. She goes on to talk about how she gets decent grades, so it's not like she's failing her classes or anything. She is a virgin by choice, and she's just like, I definitely don't have a problem, but everyone else around her is saying, yes you do. So she has to go through a 24-hour detox, and she gets really scared and conflicted because they make her do a strip search and things like that. A very humiliating thing has to happen to her, and then when she's in the detox room, she's throwing up and she's pacing and her fingers are going and she's tapping away and she's really anxious in there. And then when she finally gets out of there, she has to go to the sobriety house, and it's a 90-day thing. It's she can't leave. That's where she's going to be. It's either school or the house, and she's not really up for it. When she goes there, everyone is out there. They're like, welcome Maddie, and they're clapping their hands and they're getting ready to greet her and all of this stuff, and she's just really over it. She does not have time for it. As she goes into the house, they explain that she has to work for her phone privileges, and she ends up saying something along the lines of, it's going to be more traumatizing not having her phone than the entire experience in itself. And that was hilarious to me. I'm like, girl, you about to be in rehab. You think not having your phone a problem? Okay, alright sweetheart. Okay. She obviously doesn't think she has a problem. And as the show goes on, we get to see some of the other people's stories. There's a woman who's talking about how she stabbed her husband 4 times while she was under the influence, and she's really upset because even though she hated him, she never wanted to do anything like that, but she did because she was under the influence of drugs or alcohol. They hadn't really said. We hear about how this really cute boy named Wes, who happens to be her love interest later on in the show, that he had a dream that he relapsed, and he woke up with this guilt, and he felt really bad. And there's something so magical about his acting, because there's he looks so haunted. You could see it in his eyes that he really felt bad. And I was like, oh my god, this tortured soul, come here, let me love you, let me give you a hug. I felt so bad, and I'm just looking at him I want to know more about you. And it's so funny because Maddie was looking at him the same way. She was like, holy shizballs, this boy has been through stuff. And then they ask her to, say something about herself, and she's like, hi, I'm Maddie. And they're like, no, no, no. What you have to do is say, I'm whomever, and I am an alcoholic. So then she goes, okay, I'm whoever, and I'm an alcoholic. And then she says, I just don't belong here, guys. And they're like, I don't belong here either. They're kind of making fun of her, but in a very lighthearted way. And Craig, who is the counselor there at the sobriety house, goes ahead and tells her, I think it's only going to take you 2 days for you to realize that you need to be here. You have a problem that you need to fix. And she's like, okay, sure, whatever. Obviously she's not really taking any of it to heart. And that same day, we find out that one of the people who live there, his name is Doug, he is also leaving the house for the first time, and he's going to be out in the real world, and he's no longer going to be living with them anymore because he's done with like recovery and stuff like that. So he goes ahead and he leaves. He gives everyone a huge hug and he goes, take care of them, but let them take care of you. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. And you could tell everyone there is a family, and it was so intimate, and I was like really happy with that. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so sweet. And then later on, we see Wes walk past Maddie, and he goes, welcome to the fun house. And just, like, the way he looks at her, he is so fine. And I was just like, wow. Yeah, so that's about, like, the first half of it. And, the next day, the guidance counselor ends up driving her to school, and she tells her name is Cynthia, that she's going to be under surveillance, like, all the time, 24-hour. If she's not at the sobriety house, somebody's going to be watching her at school, because those are the only two places that she can go. So, yeah, she's really upset, and she's being, like, very angry and, like, cynical, and she's, like, talking about how school is boring, and that's why she was, like, drinking while she was at school. She was trying to make things interesting, and they're being very petty, and they're, like, fighting with each other. And then the guidance counselor, Cynthia, goes, okay, obviously you are putting off a lot of aggression, because that's one of the symptoms of withdrawal and, like, detox. And she's like, so when you're ready to have a real conversation, you can hit me up, but until then, I will see you later. Once she gets out of the car, she ends up seeing her boyfriend, who is played by Keith Powers, who is from Faking It, and I'm like, oh my god, bae, I hope he sticks around, because he's gorgeous. He's a very gorgeous man. And he's asking her, you know, why didn't you call me? I would have driven you to school, because she lies to him and says, you know, her car's in the shop, and then she lies again and says that her phone is broken, and that's why she didn't call him, instead of telling him, you know, what happened to her over the past few days. And she ends up seeing her her best friend that she goes to school with, and she's like, you know, have you ever made a lie to someone and it just is gonna keep spiraling? And then her friend, you know, is joking around with her, and she's like, I've never lied before, da 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 da. And then they end up talking some more, and they realize that they can figure out where her car is, because her laptop is in her car, and they can use the, like, Find My Device to find her laptop, which is in her car, so they can figure out where her car is, so we won't have to worry about that anymore. Woohoo! When she ends up going back to the house, she meets everyone there. She hangs out with her roommate, and as she's unpacking her clothes and stuff, her roommate called Trish picks up, like, this unicorn head, and she's like, wow, this is really cute, and Maddie snatches it back, and she's like, don't touch that, it's from my dad and he's dead. And I'm like, whew. And so Trish, you know, is very nosy, and she's like, you know, how'd he die, when did he die, what happened, stuff. So Maddie goes on to say that her dad passed away 3 years ago, and that he actually died because of a drunk driver, and the irony is very clear to her. And, you know, it was kind of sad. And then later that night, she ended up having a dream about her dad, because, I don't know, she was missing him, and in the dream, she tells him that, you know, I miss you, and he's like, I'll be seeing you very soon, as in, if you continue on this road, you're gonna die. And then we see, like, his dismantled, like, face from, like, the accident, and she wakes up and she's breathing extra heavy, and really scared her, and she's just kind of messed up after that. And later on in the show, she's downstairs, and she's reading a book, and Wes comes down at the same time to do laundry, and he ends up quoting the book to her, and I'm like, wow, he's intelligent, he, like, knows poetry. That's so cool, you know, that's how I'm thinking in my head. And I'm like, I'm such a sucker for a really cute guy, because I'm just looking at him like, anything you say to me right now is going to be the most amazing thing I've ever heard in my entire life. I'm just like, let me love you. So she tells him that she is suffocating and she can't take it anymore, and she's about to leave the house. And he's like, well, it's after curfew, so you can't really do that. And she's like, do I look like a girl who actually listens to curfews? And he's like, I guess you wouldn't be here if you were. And they end up sneaking out together through the back fence or the back door or whatever. And they sneak out and they go to a drugstore, and, you know, she picks up some chips and stuff like that. And they end up stopping in front of the liquor cabinet that they have at drugstores. And he's like, I'm gonna go see you outside. I'll meet you out there. because he didn't even want to like look at the stuff. And so he walked out and he let her finish up her shopping. And when she comes out, she brings out a bottle of vodka, and like, I got us something to celebrate with. Girl, do you not remember where you met this guy? At a sobriety house, so he doesn't drink anymore. And it's like, he gets really mad and he's like, I can't believe you would do this to me, you know, I can't believe you like put me at risk like that. And she's like, oh my god, I'm a jerk, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that you were taking this so seriously. And she dumps it out, she like literally pours it out onto the ground, and then she throws the bottle away. And literally right after she does that, the counselor called Craig. He shows up and he found them, and he takes them back to his the house or whatever, and he goes ahead and he tells her, you know, I can't believe you did that, you know, and she's like, just don't kick him out, you know, he was just trying to protect me, that's the only reason he came with me, you know, and she's protecting him by saying that. And then she's like, okay, well then, why don't you pack your stuff and I'll tell somebody to come get you. And then he's like, Wes goes, you're not gonna kick her out. And he's like, what? But then they kind of like give each other this like look, and suddenly it's like he realizes something, and he like rubs his hand over his face, and he's like, okay, you know what, just go upstairs, Maddie, go upstairs. After she walks out, Maddie has a conversation with another guy there. I think his name is Vern. And he tells her that, you know, you're going to get the hang of this, you just need to keep it under control for a while, it's like riding a bike. And then she's like, I don't know how to ride a bike. Her parents were workaholics, so she tried to teach herself, but when she fell off, she gave up. So Vern puts it on himself, he's like, I'm going to teach you how to ride a bike. And she's like, okay, you can if you want to. And then back inside with Craig and Wes, Wes has used his get out of jail free card for Maddie so she wouldn't get kicked out, and neither would he. But Craig can tell that Wes has feelings for her, and he's like, you absolutely cannot do this. You cannot be with her, you cannot date her, you can't look at her. Like, you can't do any of this. Because you're going to be putting your sobriety at risk. You're going to risk everything to be with her, and I'm not going to let you do that. So you cannot date within the first year of you being sober. And he says, okay, and it's obvious that he's going to take that to heart. The whole time while Maddie was unpacking and her roommate was talking to her, she runs into someone that she used to know called Rebecca Granger. And it turns out that they knew each other beforehand, and then they both show up at the same sobriety house. So that's a little shady. I don't know everything about that, but I'm very interested in finding it out. And, you know, even Wes noticed that they knew each other. So that was interesting too, because I didn't see him like really pay attention to either of them. Well, he paid attention to Maddie, but you know, that's different because they got a connection. Yeah, and then later in the episode, Doug comes back. And that's the guy who left because, you know, he was clean and everything. He comes back, he's totally wasted, and he's screaming that, you know, there's a hole in the back fence and all this other stuff. He's just kind of being, like, at 100, and it's kind of scary. And then he grabs Rebecca, another girl in the house, and he, like, kisses her, and he's like, everybody thinks we're losers, let's go out and party, babe. And she's horrified because he's like grabbing at her, and anytime anyone else tries to get close to Doug and Rebecca, he like reaches for her and he like pulls her, and she kind of screams because she's scared, she's nervous, and everyone's like crowded around and they're watching because they're like, if he hurts her or if he hurts anyone else, you know, what are we gonna do? And he's like, just let me and Rebecca leave. And Craig goes, okay, alright, you guys can go. And he looks at Rebecca, and they kind of have like this understanding. It's like she trusts him, so she's like, okay, I'm gonna go with him. So they start walking off, but then Vern and Wes tackle him, put him down to the ground, and then one of the girls ends up calling the police. The police come and they take him away. They talk about how he's had a lot of chances and he's still not clean and he's still doing bad things, so he's probably not going to get off very easy. They talk about how he's not a bad person, it's just certain things happen when you're under the influence. And it was very scary, and I think it was a wake-up call to Maddie, and I think she kind of realizes, wow, you know, stuff happens when you're under the influence, when you're drunk or when you're this or that, and she's very confused. And also, when her mother brought back her car, Maddie realized that there was a condom on the like front seat, like the condom wrapper. But she has already said that she's a virgin by choice and she hasn't had her first time yet. But now, since there's that condom wrapper there and she doesn't remember the night before, she very well could have lost her virginity to someone who wasn't her boyfriend, because she knows that her boyfriend was babysitting his little brothers that night. So she very well could have lost her virginity to someone she doesn't even know. So this whole experience for her has been pretty wild, and she also finds out that while she's there, she's supposed to write in a journal, you know, every day, and it's a part of the program, but she doesn't really want to. But after all those things kind of happen to her, you know, within those like 2 days, she decides, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and write in it. And she decides that she can do this, she can handle this, and everything is going to be okay, because she's going to let herself be okay, and she's going to let herself get help. And she's like, I can handle it, it's only 86 more days or whatever, I can do this. And Vern and the whole crew ends up teaching her how to ride the bike. And it was really nice, and it was really sweet. But Wes isn't talking to her anymore because of, you know, the situation, and I don't know, I guess we'll see where it goes next week. I'm so happy. It was so amazing, and there's something about the way the show makes you feel. It's very, like, warm. And even though you get a little scared, you get a little worried for the characters, you know, it's not all sad, and it's not all serious. Some parts of it is really funny, and really endearing, and really, like, heartwarming, and it's very wonderful. Like, it's fun, and it's warm, and it's so interesting to see so many different characters and so many different, like, personalities mixing together in this one giant house, and it's really cool to see, and I can't wait to see more of it. So I'm very excited, and I hope you guys are excited too. How did you guys feel about this episode and the series premiere? And I hope you guys really liked it, because I really liked it. Leave a comment below. What was your favorite part of the show, or what did you dislike about the show? And do you like the actors and the characters? And do you guys know where this is going? I mean, let me know. We can start a conversation. I will talk to you guys later. Bye!